have the pleasure of having Alan Greenberg, who is the chair of the Registration Directory Service Review. And today I'm going to be speaking with Alan about the key issues and focus of this very important review. Alan, can we start off, for those who aren't really familiar with the RDS review, can you share a little bit about the overall focus of the review?
Sure. RDS is the new name for what used to be called, and still is called to some extent, WHOIS. WHOIS is the database, the repository of all information about any registrant of a GTLD domain name. And since it contains personal information and contracted parties are required to do certain things with it, it's always been a subject of discussion, debate, and often disagreement, because it's an important aspect of what we do in ICANN. And we need to look at it on a regular basis to see how it's going, whether improvements need to be made.
Another question, you might have already answered it, but why is this review so important?
Well, I guess I addressed why it was important before, and it hasn't changed. We're still asking people for personal information. We still are requiring contracted parties, the registrars and registries, to be very diligent about it, and that's an enforcement issue, so it's still on the books.
Another question I have is, what are some of the key issues that the review team is currently addressing?
Well, we're just starting, so we're just in the process of setting what our scope is. The first part of our job is to look at the last WHOIS review, the one that completed in 2012, look at the recommendations that they made, and there were 16 of them, and look at how ICANN has implemented them. Have we done a good job at following the recommendations? And perhaps as important, was the recommendation effective at either giving us more information, fixing a problem, or something like that? So that essentially is what we're doing. The recommendations addressed a number of issues. The first part was how ICANN treats or respects WHOIS. Is it an important issue? Who in the corporation does the people responsible for WHOIS report to? The second part was, are contracts with contracted parties, registrars and registries, enforced? And how are they enforced? Accuracy, since we're asking for information about domains, accuracy is important. Is it accurate? Is it improving? And lastly, ICANN has in recent years started implementing internationalized domain names. Well, WHOIS traditionally is very much an ASCII protocol, and so the issue of how does it respond to international domain names and internationalized addresses and names that are written in other scripts, and how does it accommodate those? So those are the main issues that we're looking at. Our job is to decide whether they were done well, and are there any additional recommendations that have to be made. We'll also be looking at how effective WHOIS is in addressing the needs of law enforcement. We're all aware of all sorts of naughty and nasty things going on the internet, and law enforcement needs access to information. The question is, are we giving them the right information on a timely manner? So that's a really critical issue that we're looking at. We talk a lot about consumers on the internet, and are there implications in WHOIS related to consumer confidence? And what can we do to improve that, if possible? And lastly, we're going to be looking at an in-depth review of contractual compliance to see how transparent are they, how much data is available, are there gaps in the data? Because we want to make sure that not only is compliance doing a good job, but it's verifiably doing a good job from the perspective of the public. So those are the main issues. Perhaps as important are the things that we're not going to be looking at. And specifically, we are not looking at any of the ongoing efforts within ICANN to address future WHOIS issues. So there is a GNSO policy development process on the future RDS to replace WHOIS. It's an ongoing process, and we're not going to be looking at it while it's ongoing and trying to second guess where they're going. Lastly, there is an issue regarding European privacy And there are new regulations that are coming into force and new fines coming into force, and ICANN has to deal with that in the very near future. And again, it's an ongoing process. We're not going to be reviewing it at all.
So how can community members follow the progress of this review?
Well, there's a lot of ways. All of our teleconferences and face-to-face meetings are publicly viewable. In fact, face-to-face meetings, if the physical situation allows, you can even come visit us. All of our mailing lists are open. So pretty much anything we're doing is in the public view. And to the extent that people want to follow us, it's not hard at all. We plan to hold briefings at ICANN meetings, and we'll of course be issuing at least one draft report, and that will be subject to public comment. We have all of our information, documents, pointers to past documents, everything is on the wiki. We encourage people to take a look at it, follow us there, and keep up to where we are day by day.
Fantastic. And we'll put a link to the wiki right at the bottom of the screen.
Thank you.
Alan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for asking me.